dude. All right, I got to jump. Hey, Alexa, play the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed.
Like 24 years ago, my dogs. Where were you? I know where I was. I was on Fifth Avenue with about 50 other traders. And all of a sudden, futures start tanking. And everyone's like, what's going on? What's going on? I see Mark Haynes with the plane. Bunch of time later, I'm down on Fifth Avenue watching. The plane comes over. Psh, friends die. Chaos happens. Anyway, never forget. Some of you guys, 24 years ago, I have Conrad across. He wasn't even alive then. Nope. So everyone's got to teach. Everyone's got to tell their stories because can't forget. Joey was on 39 Broadway. Kenneth said he was on 60 Wall Street. One of my kid, his name is Josh Vitale, lit a candle at my bar mitzvah when I was 13. He was in one of the towers and he died. Real stuff. It's a crazy world we live in here. So you can't really obsess about things you can't control, but what you can control is how you go about your day, how you go about your life, how you spend time with your friends and family, what you teach your kids. And if we all do it a little bit better, the world becomes a better place. Even what happened yesterday with Kirk, it's crazy. The polarization of issues is absolutely freaking nuts. So what I will say is talk to your kids about what's happening out there because, Chase came home from school and all he wanted to do was talk about it. He's like, did you see the video? Did you see the blood? I can't believe they got him. What the hell's going on? Your kids see everything. So I'd rather you have a conversation about what's happening versus the lens of whatever media channel or social media it is. But, at this point, just every day above ground's a good day. Just try and, live in a way that's respectable and teach the ways that you think, should be taught. And maybe things, don't get out of control. But anyway, here we are. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. Jack was on the Commodity Exchange. Everyone's got a crazy story to tell. But since I only got about 20 minutes, I'm not going to tell you mine, but I was on my balcony. I lived on 34th Street and 2nd, and I watched, the tower come down. And that was after, running through the streets, with, I was across the street from the Empire State Building. So when we saw the second plane and they're like, oh, the Capitol and this and crazy chaos. But for today, we don't have crazy chaos. We just have to kind of remember and teach. Everything's a teaching moment kind of. So with that being said, here's the SPYs. Yesterday we hit a high. The PPI came in really, really light, so they gapped up the futures. So hopefully you had some ways to, trim into some strength, add to some hedges and just continue to manage the process. For today, SPYs are up $1.29. Here you go. 653.50. A little bit below 654. Still above the 8-day with a really strong trend. And we'll see how the day goes. And listen, just, one more note on just, you guys got to control what you can control. Like yesterday was a shit day for me, excuse my French. I had a lot of Amazon on and they hit Amazon real fast. And I was a little bit short gold and gold was up and a lot of things, and just unfortunate things that I couldn't control. I didn't know, that all of a sudden Oracle was going to have a blowout, forecast and people are going to think that they're stealing from everyone else to, go to Oracle for cheaper, AWS / whatever it is. So anyway, just a day in the life, just move on. That's why you don't let your highs get too high, your lows get too low, and just, control what you can. Every 9/11 has been green since 9/11. All right. Well, we're green today, so here we are. Um, let's see. Take a look at the cues. Look at this. Look at this trend. Just yeah, Jer. So many ways to yeah. This whole thing is like a history book. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. 583.32. If we could get above that and stay above that. Um, you have the CRWV. Well, listen, great. Like CRWV, everyone's like, how do things change? How do how do new sequences start? Well, you know, basically, you had your first life of CRWV above the 8-day, and then it corrected, and then right here you had a little bit of a double bottom, started to reclaim the moving averages. So if you were in there, you got paid. A lot of people like Red Dog. Thank you so much for the chart of ARM. How did you know that was going to happen? I'm like, I didn't know it was going to happen, but ARM is a new name. They started to get away from some of the leaders of the last 3 months. Is built, and all it got really really tight. So like I said, I frame it. You could be long versus 130 or buy it through 142, and then that was a nice move, and it probably continues. I bet your ARM is something that you could stick with. Now this gap is a little bit smaller. Broadcom or Vago. We talk about, I do a lot of like, how do you say it? It's like a strategy that's, good for anything. Well, AVGO, right? You look here. So Vago had a big gap up. All right, some guys, evergreen. So the evergreen strategies, you have a big gap up post earnings. Okay, you then put in your pivot. You could be long versus that pivot of the day, or wait to the second day and then buy versus that. And this could have even scared you, and then that happened. Anyway, A11 and Net were really good also. I've been talking to you guys about new names. This IREN, big money trade for a lot of people above the 8-day. So if you use moving averages to look for relative strength, right here, boom. I think we really started hyper focusing right around here. And look, it even protected that gap. So you protect the gap and you hold the 8-day when the Qs go to the 50-day or the S&P goes to 21-day. Boom. Anyway, this wolf looks pretty good too. A little doji yesterday, but I would think, you want to stay with one of these. Water pistol, no guns. To head, I think this thing gets to 14-ish at least. Over the course of the next few weeks. So try and stay with that. That looks pretty good. Yeah, there's a lot of miners that are working really, really well. What's it called? As far as Nvidia, some people like, do I think Nvidia is back? Is Nvidia back? Well, I will say thank goodness for Nvidia. It saved my day yesterday because I bought Nvidia into the close right before Oracle because big volume came in. So somebody knew something. So besides having some options on, I bought the stock. And then yesterday, you had a nice big gap up. It's back above the moving averages. So I'm going to frame the trade for you. Okay, that's what my job is. My job is to take 40 charts and frame the trade, and then you trade it however you want to trade it. Whatever fits into your risk parameters, your size, it could be options, it could be stocks. So right now, so if you take a closer look here, this is what you have. You have a big gap up. That means there was a lot of demand. Very exciting. You had your lower pivot gapped above it, and now you have 175.48. So the way the trade looks is if this could hold above 175.45 for a bit, that would show demand and commitment to that gap up, which would mean power, which means that sooner than later, this thing can continue to move. If it were to trade into this gap and start filling it, it means it's not as strong. It's going to take more time, and you have to be a little bit more careful with your sizing. So with that being said, swing trade, be long actively versus 175.47. It went to 179.29. Maybe today you get an inside day. So you could add, right? If it gets above and stays above, this is like one little mini range, 179.29. I always say you have to get above and stay above to show commitment to a move above a prior high. Might not be today. And then, the real key money trade will be over time that if it could hold this 175.47, go sideways and take that out, then 185 is your next big level for it to clear and hold, and then boom. So that is how you frame a trade. And right now I'm in a little bit of options and I'm in a little bit of stock. And today probably needs a little bit of time to digest above this. So That's what we do here. Some of you guys are making good money in open. Okay. Well, open, I'll tell you, what did it do? It held the 8-day, right? Open has been everyone's like, oh, open's a meme trade. Open, is for the Robin Hood, like little kids. I'm like, not true. Open has had a move. It's been above the 8-day. It's been trending higher. If you sold the Red Dog reversal 685, you were able to buy the 8-day. If you sold the Red Dog reversal into here, you were able to buy the 8-day. Some guys like, hey, I'll even give it to the 21-day. I don't trade real time for a living, so I'm not as active. So instead of being so active with the 8-day, then you go to the 21-day because the 21-day is still a strong trend. Anyway, are you? No, but that was a really good trade. I know on the 630 Club, I talked to you guys about buying BMNR into the 42 area, and yes, they did a little bit of a topping tail. So that should have been, probably a trim and trail. So some guys would have got out of it at 49, and some guys say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be that active. I don't trade for a living. I'm going to be long this BMNR versus 39.70. It all depends on how you want to do it. I kind of think I'd rather see you guys in the underlying now because there's so many of these things and they're so erratic and they could, although you can get paid if you're right for that half an hour or hour, it could really hurt you. But that was a nice trade. I'm glad you caught it, Daniel. Yes, Joe's saying that Tesla's being bipolar. Tesla has been really friggin', a tease, like a really, really hot girl that like comes up to you and when you're in college and is like, hey, buddy. No, I'm kidding. Or vice versa. And then you buy it a few drinks and then it walks away and says, thank you very much. Anyway, that never happened. Yeah, it happened a lot. Anyway, this is Tesla. At some point, Tesla might get above and stay above, three. This is 358. What was yesterday's high? This was 356. At some point, it gets above and stays above it. But at this point, every time if you bought there, you got hurt. Like yesterday, I bought it there and didn't work. So sometimes what's better is go out a week or two and take a call spread. So this way you're not over trading and you're not buying high and selling low because you're supposed to be buying low and selling high. But anyway, with that being said, home builders depends on the CPI. That's true. That is true. But this still is going sideways. This still has a nice channel. This still, you can't be so upset about this. So at some point, use your volume filters. If it's trading like really, really, really big volume, I guess it has to in order to sustain it, then maybe you'll get the trade above it. But it's definitely choppy. I have a call spread on. I might have to go out another week. Yes, Apple got hit like it always does. Okay, Apple. If you remember, this is when it started its active sequence, made really good money into that. And then I got out of my shares the day before the event. But I'm not going to, I did into this move. I'm like, let me buy some options just in case the next day they come back and they buy the stock, and they didn't yesterday. It came in and now it kind of broke this trend line and now it needs time to rebuild. I would just be careful with Apple because it's up a whole 70 cents. It's going to need time to repair. So just like other things in this market, things are taking their turns. Things are kind of, what's it called? What are they doing? They're just taking their turns being in play. Channel Guy Trader. Market faked me out yesterday also. The names I was in didn't follow through. Yeah, not you don't always have follow through, So, but that is a company. That's a company handling that. So China names have been doing really, really well for me. I did sell my BABA into this move. Okay, remember we were buying it in here, so that was a great power play, really good. I also sold my Baidu. So people are like, why'd you sell your Baidu? I'm like, I kind of thought that it would come into this gap, and they've been selling some strength, so I tried to be cute. But overall, that looks good. I'm still in JD. My thought was that JD would have its first move into the 200-day, and that was great. I was buying the $33 calls, made over 100 to 200% on them, sold half. Now, if it could go sideways here, I do think there's another trade in JD above 34.40, and I think that'll pay us. So I'm in JD, and I'm going to stay with it, and I think it's going to be good. And I also like this Pony. It's got to come out with some news, but Pony AI, I know a lot of funds that are buying it. And I think you had your day one, let it go a little sideways, and then I guess if it were to get above this little 1550, it can go. It's been under some crazy accumulation. I just think that it's got to come out with some news, and it's got to do a little bit of NBIS type of action, but we'll see. Is Amazon resetting? I hope so. So this is where I got hurt yesterday. Thank goodness I use a tier system, and this is the honest truth. I was buying, into here. I was buying the 237.50s and the 235 calls, and thank goodness into this push up to 230.85, I got down to half, but I still had the shares on. And then yesterday, just to let you know how the Alpha team, yes, the Alpha team works together, and you could also join the Alpha team for next week for free for 4 days and do a trial. Amazon was down 2 while everything was up. And I'm like, what the hell is Amazon doing down for? And I'll say Matty D is like, hey, some reports are saying the reason why Amazon is down and Oracle is up is because they say that, people are turning to Oracle for a cheaper way to, use the cloud. So it's taking some of Amazon's business. So thank goodness, because it kept me away from buying too fast, because obviously look what happened here. So anyway, so what did I do? I just didn't buy any more shares on it into this move lower. I'm like, you know what? I bet you over the course of the next few days, there's going to be some wirehouses that come out in the defense of Amazon saying that's not true. People aren't going away from Amazon for Oracle. It's just how strong the group is. So anyway, I bought some 240 calls, 240s, not for 2 weeks out, just in case I have enough time. So what would be good is, Amazon is up a little bit today. It's got to repair pretty fast. It's up $1.70. So I would think first things first is, how does it deal with 233? That's the low right here, 233. If it can get above, a third of this wide range bar, it'll show that this bar, isn't as strong, isn't as controlling, but it's going to need a few days to reset. I'm just going to kind of back off and let it reset. I already bought some options. So I went out, bought some cheap options, and then we'll see how it goes today. Thanks for ASST. Yeah, I wasn't in it. I did talk about it. I got away from it. If you made money yesterday, congratulations. Thoughts on Adobe? When does Adobe come out? I think Adobe comes out September. Did it come out already today? I'm not exactly sure. All I know is that it's up 7. There you go. Some people think that it could be better than feared, and if it's better than feared, this has been absolutely annihilated. So when it's set up at the lows of a big range like it is, it comes in better than feared, sometimes you can make some good money. So at this point, this is some resistance. What's this high here? This is 362. So if it gets above and stays above 362, maybe it starts a new active sequence, but it's been kind of left for dead. Where's Adobe right now? I just said it's 357. Interesting. So we'll see. Could Oracle be taking it? They could. Look at CRM yesterday. Horrible. Everyone's been, oh my goodness, this looks like a huge cup and handle pattern, but I'm not saying it's over, but wow. Anyway, I knew guys that, if you play a laggard, you can get hurt. Sometimes they're good, but sometimes things are a laggard for a reason. And look at this candle yesterday. What I think is interesting? I bought some Cisco calls. Cisco, all right, old school, another one of the old school names from way back in the day. From what I hear, they're doing really well, firing on all cylinders. Took back some moving averages yesterday. It did have a breakout failure, but look where it came from. So right now it's in a channel. It's rebuilding. I feel like if you think, Cisco could also be something. Not saying it's going to pull an Oracle, but maybe there's something there. So go buy some options out a month or two. They're real cheap. So anyway, with that being said, what else we got? Gold. I do think that gold is, I don't know where that tell came from, but I put a big whatever it's called, a big call spread on in gold here. This, time and place for gold. Put it on right there. Went out to all my guys that subscribe to Power Plays. I did a call spread. They just bought straight calls, and we got out of it into this day. It was done. I didn't get this day, but who cares? And look how it extended this from the 8th day, and now it's down a little bit. But anyway. Richard Judge, thank you, Scott, for your time this morning. Have a great trading day. You too, Richard. I appreciate you. God bless, God bless America. God bless anyone that lives a life in a way that, they could be proud of. whether like I try and be like a moderate in the middle. I don't agree with the far left. I don't agree with the far right. Um, I was trained as an athlete to just do my best, try my best, work hard, be disciplined. Conduct myself in a way that I want others to conduct themselves. I try not to obsess about things I can't control, and I just try and add some value when I can. Silver, Kenny Mans asked me, SLV. It's building again above the 8-day. A little bit of a red dog reversal right there, because it was extended. It's probably down a little bit with gold, right? So SLV down a little bit, no big deal. Gold, down a little bit. It's fine. They're allowed to have down days. Some people are like, what's the matter with crypto? I don't think there's anything the matter with crypto. Just so you guys know, crypto actually follows a really nice, like it follows the calendar somewhat, and it's only September 11th. Typically, you get your move in crypto, somewhere in the end of October. It starts in November. It's sneaky. By the time Thanksgiving happens, your mother-in-law, the bus driver, everyone's like, oh my God, I should need to be buying Bitcoin because it's already through highs and exciting. So you want to, catch that move. So if you remember last year, I did the turkey trot. Remember the Bitcoin turkey trot was back here, and we made a lot of money. But that was so the Bitcoin. If you look, was in this range, right? It was in this range, and everybody was like crying about it, and it just was consolidating a big move. And then Bitcoin started its move really November 5th, right? Actually, so you could have started even here. This was October, so all of a sudden it started its move, and look at that move through Thanksgiving and Christmas. Remember the turkey trot, the 100,000 dash. Well, now it's been going sideways again for a while. You could actually even raise this to here. At some point, this IBIT takes this out. There's a big void here, so it's just not the time for momentum in crypto. I don't think. The Inner Circle Group, DP Prince, yeah. Anyway, I'm kidding. I love David. A lot of people think that SOLT, which I've been talking about in here also. A lot of people buying the $27 calls out a month or two. Will be the next leader of when Bitcoin goes to 130,000, which it probably does at some point by Christmas or more. That SOL is something that's going to participate. So yeah, so you could be in SOL. John Bosca, what do you think? We will get a short-term pullback. We had that already, John. I don't know. I'm just trying to stay the course. If you look at the Qs, remember the pullback to the 50-day? Well, that happened. That happened right here. So this is the Qs. This was it was lagging. It made it broke the moving averages. So if you got out of the way here, you did very well being able to buy the 50-day. That was also a double bottom, and now we're back up. So what do I think? When do I think it's going to? All I know is if you've been short all of September because of the September, seasonal patterns, you've been hurt. And again, this isn't going to end well. It's not a trading strategy. It's just a thought and it's an opinion. So have trading strategies versus thoughts and opinions, and chances are you're going to probably be able to be in the market for quite a long time. I've been in the market since 1998. Anyway, I got to jump. It's 6:54. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning to the 630 Club. By the way, if you've been watching the 630 Club for free since 2020, what you should do is subscribe above to the Red Dog Mindset. I'm going to be making a lot of changes in the next few months. So if you want to grandfather yourself into my community, it just costs $10, and you'll be in there for as long as I'm on Twitter. But I don't know how much time you will have left. So for $10, which is about 35 cents a day, this costs $4.55 a day. You could always have the access to the 630 Club. That as long as I'm breathing, I'll be doing. But things are going to change. I'm sick of all the bots on Twitter. I'm sick of every time I do a tweet, someone's connecting to it. There's a lot of just imposters out there. So I want a real community that wants to be engaged. And at some point, it's going to switch over. So the 630 Club will be there. So subscribe above. If not, you know what? It's your prerogative. I appreciate you. Listen, September 11th. Take a deep breath. Every day above ground is a good day, my dogs. Control what you can, and make sure you just be a good person, and maybe some things will change for the better. And stand up for what you believe in. Otherwise, you're always just sitting down, and nobody likes somebody who's always sitting down.